Gary, hello. Good to see you again. How are you?
Good, thanks, Leo. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Gary. Gary, thank you for compiling this 700 years of long-term global interest rates piece. I looked into this and I see that you reference the Bank of England with their style changing, dog and the frisbee, for example. We've got a millennium of macroeconomic data, which looks like an extensive spreadsheet. And we've got 110 pages from Paul Schmelzing on his working paper. I wondered if you could let us know what all this comes towards. What do you find in all of this? And then could you take us through the two charts, which I assume you've compiled through these sources?
Sure. So I think the change in style is simply the Bank of England responding to the new world of electronic media and communication and trying to make their information more accessible than it's been previously. So it sounds more interesting putting an article out called The Dog and the Frisbee instead of saying how do we cope with the complexities of multifunctional modern markets. It sounds a bit more interesting if you can talk about tracing data back to the time of Robert the Bruce than it is if you just say 1,000 years of macroeconomic data. Now, sure. I'm going to get sucked in anyway, but what the Bank of England are trying to do is to appeal to a broader audience, so that's good. As for the charts, chart A in the piece is looking back to of world interest rates. They are global interest rates. So in compiling those, they are the interest rates of the dominant economy of the age, and it gives you a flavour of what global interest rates have looked like over 700 years. Key takeaway for anyone looking at that, these times are unprecedented with regard interest rates, not with regard pandemics, which we've had before, but interest rates have never been this low before. That's key. And then if you look at chart B, which you just mentioned, this simply looks at UK interest rates only. And again, the takeaway is they've never been as low. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is the message I wanted to get over to people. They're not just low, they're not just depressed. They're at levels that we have never seen globally and we've never seen in this country.
So Gary, why are people interested in investing in government bonds over 30 years when interest rates are this low?
It beats me. But then again, I'm a child of not so much a child, a teenager of the 70s. So I cut my teeth in financial markets when interest rates and inflation in this country were at all-time record levels. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, I have experienced what interest rates are like when they go up. Whereas, the current generation have been used to very, very low interest rates, low fixed mortgages. And there's a kind of an assumption, I think, globally today that central banks have somehow killed inflation and it's not coming back. But those mistakes have been made previously. And why it's relevant is this. If the 30-year UK government bond rate, the 30-year gilt, if the yield returns to its long-term average, doesn't go above it, doesn't go back to the record levels of the 70s, if that yield goes back to its long-term average, then holders of that bond, which is meant to be safe, will lose 50% of its value. Now that is a significant hit for an asset that is supposedly safe.
Mm-hmm. So nobody's waving any magic bonds around and Courtiers is not invested in any long-dated bonds?
No, what's the point? Inflation's higher than the 0.6% per annum you'll get on 30-year gilts at the moment. So it gives you a almost guaranteed negative rate of return. Your purchasing power is going down.
Sure.
And the other thing, Leo, that I would say is this. To anybody, if you've got to have faith in a government and a central bank being able to control interest rates and inflation for the foreseeable future. You've got to believe that there won't be a mistake. despite central banks' balance sheets being at record levels, central banks buying record levels of government bonds, and governments now running record peacetime deficits because of COVID, and unlikely to return to austerity because they can't get elected doing it, all of a sudden, the Friedmanite view of the world and the best way to run it is dead, and we're going to go back to a Keynesian solution. So once government starts spending and you've got all this money being created, you might get a boom in inflation, and then it won't be very pleasant for anybody in markets, but particularly not for bondholders.
Sure. Gary, thanks for giving us that insight. With regards to these references from the Bank of England, they are quite extensive. We'll include links for clients to dig in should they wish. And if possible, if clients have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, please send them through. Gary, I'd like to ask that you could dig into any that we might receive.
Happily.
Excellent. Gary, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Leo.
Take care. Bye.
And you.